At the center of Hamilpus Mountain, there was a man wearing fire-resistant boots and equipped with a fire resistance buff. However, the heat from below still seeped through the resistance and reached his feet. For those without fire resistance, surviving in this place was impossible. This man was ranked 31st in Korea. He was the Fire Dragon Knight, Agni. This area contained a legendary grade item that could only be obtained from the fire dragon that appeared in the secret dungeon of Hamilpus Mountain. The heart of the fire dragon. This was the perfect item for him, as all of his skills were linked to fire. It felt as though this item was made specifically for him. Ahead of him, he saw the door leading into a chamber, the secret dungeon where the legendary dragon lay sleeping. On his way, he spotted a man sleeping in a place where even he, fully clad in fire-resistant equipment, struggled to proceed. Looking more intently, he noticed the man's gloves, accessories, and shoes. All of them were legendary grade or even beyond. Seeing that the man wasn't fully on guard, Agni entertained the thought of taking his items. But he suddenly wondered, how could this man even be here? Even he, a fire dragon knight, barely managed to reach this place using a secret map obtained from his exclusive quest. Agni thought that this man might be incredibly powerful, given that he was sleeping right in front of the fire dragon's dungeon in the lava region. This meant his fire resistance was far superior to Agni's. However, Agni also noted the mismatch. The man was sleeping soundly, and even snoring. Agni reasoned that if he could land a preemptive strike, he might be able to win despite the difference in their fire resistance levels. But the question lingered in his mind. Who is this man? If he managed to reach this place, he must be someone well-known. Agni mentally reviewed all the names in the top 100 rankings, but this man wasn't among them. This could only mean one thing. He was an unofficial ranker. With that realization, Agni decided not to let his guard down. Agni unleashed a fire dragon charge, confident that he had hit his target. However, the man effortlessly evaded the attack. Agni began to wonder if the man was actually awake. You have taken damage while the skill, Narcolepsy, is activated. The blanket for excellent sleep has been placed in your inventory. The skill, Sleepwalking, has been activated. Agni's thoughts raced. Is this guy really asleep? Suddenly, the man moved at lightning speed and counterattacked. Agni was stunned by the sheer quickness of his movements. In a desperate attempt to retaliate, Agni struck behind him, or above him, but the man wasn't there. Agni could feel it, his ranker's instinct screaming at him. He couldn't afford to let this man land a direct attack. Without hesitation, Agni pulled out his fire dragon's scale shield, the shield he prided himself on, boasting the highest defense power among all his equipment. But then it happened. It wasn't just any attack. It was something he couldn't dodge or block. In an instant, Agni was struck. He had taken significant damage and cannot move for 1 second. Before he could react, the sleeping man swiftly launched another attack with his sword, a rapid strike that seemed impossibly precise despite his apparent slumber. He received a fatal attack and was afflicted with the abnormal status, nightmare. This caused him to experience hallucinations and intense pain for 5 seconds. Agni saw a vision of death, followed by an overwhelming agony. Unable to withstand it, Agni was eliminated and forcibly logged out. As punishment, he would be unable to re-enter the game for 24 real-world hours. Agni couldn't believe it. He had been defeated by an unofficial ranker. His character slowly disappeared, leaving behind a weapon and some coins on the ground. After the battle, the character that defeated him returned to sleeping peacefully. Hours later, he woke up, trying to recall when he had fallen asleep again. Seeing the scattered items on the ground, he muttered, "Looks like my sleepwalking skill activated again." While apologizing internally, he reasoned that his sleepwalking skill must have activated because he was attacked. Even so, he couldn't just leave the items behind. He picked up the flame sword and collected 897 gold, which would help cover his living expenses a bit. He didn't expect to obtain such a great item after a good rest. Feeling fortunate, he admired the benefits of his class. 1 year and 4 months after the launch of the game idea, Hyunsung pondered his next steps. If I slay the fire dragon, maybe I can level up a bit more, he thought. He wondered, when will I finally become a ranker? Class: Descendant of Thananos. Class rank: God. Title: Are you a legend? Because I am a god. With that, Hyunsung continued on his way, his determination unwavering. Inside an office building, Assistant Manager Lee was approached by his boss with a seemingly casual question. What time do you think it is right now? Caught off guard, Lee quickly apologized and explained, the caretaker arrived late today. His boss, unimpressed, followed up with another pointed question. If the caretaker resigns, are you planning to resign from this job as well? The other employees couldn't help but feel sorry for Hyunsung, who was being scolded once again. This time, even before 9 a.m., they wondered why Department Head Park acted this way, especially since Hyunsung was known for his good personality and consistently excellent work. It didn't take much for them to come up with an explanation: jealousy. Park had graduated from an elite and prestigious university, but after 10 years, he was still just a department head without a single promotion. Meanwhile, Hyunsung, a confident high school graduate, had landed a job at a major company. He worked diligently, excelled at his tasks, and was not only handsome but also popular among the female employees. It had been 5 years since Hyunsung started working for this company. Opportunities for a high school graduate like him to join another major corporation were rare, so losing this job wasn't an option. For now, he endured. Park, in his condescending way, had once commented that Hyunsung was lucky to be exempted from conscription because of his sick younger sister. That moment had made Hyunsung want to lash out, but instead, he held back, masking his anger with laughter. All he could do at that time was thank his boss through gritted teeth. Now, as Park told him to stop stating the obvious and ordered him to go buy coffee, Hyunsung had no choice but to comply. He needed this job, not just for himself but to cover his sister's hospital bills and his living expenses. Hyunsung had to keep working for his monthly salary, even in a place like this. He thought about how exhausting this day had been and how much he truly wanted to quit. That evening, at the building where Hyunsung lived, the caretaker was preparing to leave as Hyunsung arrived home. The caretaker apologized for arriving late earlier that day and promised to come earlier tomorrow. In the house left to him by their parents, Hyunsung lived with his younger sister, Hyuna. At 20 years old, an age where most people spent their time hanging out with friends, laughing, and being carefree, Hyuna's life was different. Because their parents had passed away when they were young and Hyuna couldn't walk, she matured early, far beyond her years. Since she couldn't move freely, Hyuna spent her time playing games and reading books. Hyunsung asked if she had already eaten dinner, and she replied that she had. He had also already eaten, so he excused himself to change clothes, promising to return afterward. He tried not to show it, but the truth was, he was utterly exhausted. 6 years ago, their family car collided with a truck that had crossed the center line of the road. Their parents, who were sitting in the front seats, died instantly. Fortunately, Hyuna survived. Although her brain showed no signs of damage, she lost the use of both her legs. Even though 6 years have passed since the accident, it remains a traumatic memory for Hyuna, who was only 14 years old at the time. She had witnessed her parents die right in front of her. Recently, they received some good news from the doctor: the fact that Hyuna's health is gradually improving. Hyuna, who used to blame herself every day and cry, saying it was her fault, is now smiling. For Hyunsung, seeing her laugh like this is a relief. He believes it's all thanks to that game. Upon the doctor's recommendation, Hyuna started playing a virtual reality game last year. At first, she wasn't enthusiastic, but she became more energetic as she got used to it. The game is set in a world larger than the actual Earth, a virtual reality game called Idea. No other words could describe it except as an alternate Earth. Even though the game has been out for more than a year, it continues to maintain a large player base, making it the most successful game of its kind. Hyuna was preparing to go to sleep. Hyunsung told her to call him if she needed anything. When he bought Hyuna's capsule, he also purchased one for himself. Even though it was very expensive, he never thought of it as a waste of money because the capsule was incredibly useful. There was only one reason he bought the capsule. The flow of time in the game was different from real life. For every hour that passed in the real world, 5 hours passed inside the game. Hyunsung was likely the only person in the world who bought a capsule for sleeping instead of playing. Through this, he was able to catch up on his sleep. Normally, in the real world, he could only sleep 4 to 5 hours, but in Idea, he could sleep for 20 to 25 hours. Without this, he might have been completely exhausted from work. Now that he thought about it, he realized he could probably make a lot of money through the game. At this point, Idea was no longer just a simple game. As the best virtual game in the world, it had generated enormous profits. Today, it wasn't merely recognized as a game but also as an industry, with countless people quitting their jobs to play Idea. Perhaps it was the same for kids who started playing in its early stages. When he was younger, his gaming skills were so exceptional that he was offered the chance to become a professional gamer. He might have pursued that path if his parents hadn't objected, but he no longer thought about such childish things. For the sake of his only remaining family member, he had stopped dwelling on meaningless thoughts. With that, he logged into the game to start sleeping. Hyunsung, the player gaining recognition, connected to Idea. This is the village where newbies and their characters arrive before proceeding to the tutorial. Even though it was called a village, he was the only one there. The place was like a room where you could move your character around and adapt to the virtual world. But for him, there was no other inn like this. Upon entering, Hyunsung immediately lay down. He wished he could sleep like this in the real world. Soon, he was snoring peacefully. Later that night in the game, a system notification appeared, stating that he had slept for over 10,000 hours in-game. Because of this, he gained numerous class upgrades, new skills, and various benefits, all from simply sleeping for a total of 10,000 hours. Even while sleeping, his mind drifted to that bastard, Department Head Park. The next morning in the game, Hyunsung woke up and checked the time. 6 hours had passed in the real world, a good amount of sleep. He was about to log out to grab some food but noticed several messages popping up. It was the first time he had seen anything like this. He was stunned by what he saw. He had no idea what was happening. His class had been changed to a god rank class, descendant of Thananos. He wondered what it meant. When he checked his status, he couldn't believe his eyes. All his stats started at 55, whereas new players typically began with stats of 5. He hadn't even passed the tutorial. He thought it might have something to do with the titles he had received. People often said you could earn a lot of money from this game. Hyunsung calmed himself and decided to learn everything about his newfound class. With that, he immediately logged out. Hyunsung was amazed because this was far more incredible than he had imagined. If he became skilled enough, he could earn the average annual salary of a regular worker. Hyunsung knew it would be challenging at a low level, so he wondered if he could manage it by dipping into his savings. 2 months. That should be more than enough. The next morning, Hyunsung was singing while cooking breakfast. His sister, Hyuna, asked if he was making breakfast. He quickly answered, yes, and then asked if she wanted to use the bathroom. Hyuna immediately replied, no, but Hyunsung still went to her and asked what she would do if an accident happened. Hyuna told him to just put her in her wheelchair. Afterward, she quickly sent him out of the room. Seeing Hyuna brightening up like this was all thanks to Idea. That's why Hyunsung was truly grateful for this game. After Hyunsung left Hyuna, she attempted to stand from her wheelchair on her own. She could do it easily in the game, but it was difficult in real life. She thought that if she practiced a bit more, she might be able to walk again. The doctor had told her that she could walk sooner if she worked on building more muscle. Hyuna planned to keep this a secret from Hyunsung until she could walk again. At Hyunsung's workplace, Department Head Park asked him about the letter he had handed over. Hyunsung replied that it was his resignation letter. Mr. Park asked why this sudden decision and whether it had anything to do with what happened yesterday. Mr. Park said he would pretend it never happened and ordered Hyunsung to return to his desk. He advised Hyunsung to think about his injured younger sister, pointing out that if he quit suddenly, how would his sister manage? Furious, Hyunsung slammed the desk with his fist and thanked Mr. Park for everything he had done for him but added that he hoped they would never meet again. At this, Mr. Park's nose began to run. Hyunsung felt like he had won the lottery, but instead of money, he had won an opportunity to earn money in that game. Seeing this chance that depended entirely on him, he knew he had to be cautious. Hyunsung entered a computer shop and used a PC. The capsules were on the right, and the regular PCs were on the left. Hyunsung began studying. He was certain that making money would be easier at higher levels. Currently, Korea's official number 1 ranker was above level 350, while most players were around level 100. Because of this, items between levels 100 and 200 were the most in demand. For every 4 levels a normal rank achieves, a legendary rank would only level up once. God rank comes after legendary, so it requires 5 times the experience. Hyunsung worried that resigning might turn out to be a mistake, but thinking of it another way, it meant he was 5 times more efficient compared to a normal rank. Moreover, the posts he read mentioned that, when used correctly, higher ranks were significantly stronger. Otherwise, why would anyone aim for a higher rank class? Hyunsung decided to rent a capsule. The attendant told him that the capsule was prepaid, meaning he had to pay before using it. He had 8.5 hours left before his usual work hours would have ended. He rented the capsule for 9 hours. Each hour cost $20, so the total cost for 9 hours was $180. Hyunsung began using the capsule. He didn't allocate his remaining ability points immediately because he didn't know what skills he currently had, and he didn't want to use them recklessly. He started pondering what kind of class the descendant of Thananos was. When he looked into it, Thananos was revealed to be the god of death and sleep. Since ancient times, Thananos was known as the strongest of all gods, and it was said that no other god could stand against him. He reveled in death and sleep, and legends claimed he found joy in mingling with evil. Hyunsung still couldn't determine what type of class this was. He thought to himself that this god seemed like a hopeless case, a punk. However, considering he was the god of death and sleep, it wasn't too bad. Hyunsung checked his skill log and discovered he already had 5 skills. 1. Thananos Narcolepsy, passive, increases your stats simply by sleeping. 2. Thananos Dreams, passive, earns DP, dream points, based on how long you sleep. DP can also be gained by hunting boss monsters or defeating users at least 30 levels higher than you. Using the DP store, you can purchase items or skills, even legendary rank ones. Although these items cannot be sold once in your possession, they won't be lost upon death. Contains all types of skills and items, including legendary rank. 3. Thananos Somnambulism, passive, while in deep sleep, an AI of equal level to yours will control your character. This activates if someone attacks you or if you fall asleep in an area with monsters. 4. Thananos Nightmares, passive, all weapon abilities are boosted by 200%. You can wield any type of weapon, regardless of requirements. 5. Sabbath of Death, allows you to spend DP to put any target to sleep for 1 minute. While asleep, the target takes double damage. The DP cost varies depending on the target. Cooldown, 10 hours. Hyunsung marveled at his skills. Though he lacked any direct combat-oriented abilities, the DP store allowed him to select skills that complemented his playstyle. Combining his class skills, he effectively started the game with 10 skills in total, an impressive feat. It wouldn't be surprising if others accused him of being a hacker. As he explored the possibilities, Thananos Narcolepsy activated. A prompt warned him that he was being forced to sleep. Even if he disconnected, or if the capsule were damaged, his character would remain in the game. The system also informed him, you have 11 hours and 48 minutes before you're forced to log out. At the rehabilitation hospital, Hyuna was training herself to walk again. The doctor told her that walking would be a bit challenging, but it wasn't due to any psychological reasons. She just needed to build some muscles. Hyuna said she was doing her best because she wanted to show her brother that she was improving. The doctor then asked her when she planned to tell her brother that she was the one paying for her own hospital and rehabilitation bills. Hyuna replied that she was about to tell him, but her brother thought she was joking when she mentioned earning money through gaming. Because of this, the doctor assumed her brother probably didn't watch much TV. He likely thought she couldn't save money from gaming because of her condition. Hyuna then decided to wait and surprise her brother all at once. The doctor remarked that it sounded like it would be a fun moment and said he wanted to see her brother's surprised expression. Hyuna laughed and said she would take a picture of his reaction and send it to the doctor. After a while, Hyunsung called. He said he got scared when he came home and found Hyuna wasn't there. Hyuna explained that she went out for a stroll with her caregiver. Hyunsung asked if she needed him to pick her up, but Hyuna replied that she wasn't a child anymore and that she was with her caregiver. She then asked for her doctor's permission to go home. The doctor told her to hurry so her brother wouldn't suspect anything. Hyuna immediately called her caregiver to arrange for a pickup. She reminded the caregiver to stick to the story she told her brother, that they had just gone out for a stroll, to make sure their explanations matched. When they returned home, Hyunsung assured her that he would take care of everything since he would be staying home that day. He gave the caregiver a day off, noting that they didn't get many rest days. Afterward, Hyunsung brought Hyuna to her room. As she settled in, Hyuna wondered if Hyunsung had realized that she had gone to the hospital. Still, she thought, even if he did, he probably wouldn't be angry about it. Wondering if something bad had happened at his workplace, Hyuna asked Hyunsung if there was something he wanted to share. Hyunsung revealed that he had quit his job and decided to start earning money through idea. Hyuna was immediately amazed and excited by what he said. She enthusiastically responded that it was an excellent decision since so many people were now making money from idea. Hyunsung didn't expect such a positive reaction from her. Hyuna then asked where he was in the game, what class and rank he had reached. She assumed he must have gotten something valuable in the game that prompted him